Fuck. Carl, I told you on the phone during some of our late night conversations when I was completely sober and you were completely drunk. You were without question the most naturally gifted and talented broadcaster I'd ever worked with. Now, that's not saying you were the best, because I've worked with quite a few who are among the best. But you weren't even pursuing that career. Just like you weren't pursuing the career of a stand-up comedian. But you could have done that as well. In fact, and this is definitely a fact, you are funnier than pretty much any stand-up comedian I met off of a stage. I mean, stand-up comedians are not that funny. They're kind of fucking depressing, like clowns without makeup. I mean, when they get a set on and they get their show together and they're ready to do their act, sure, they're funny. Maybe when they turn their little switch on when they're doing an interview, they got a couple of lines they can drop it. But you were in the moment funny all the time. Like you were on all the time, bro. And that's just one aspect of you. I mean, we all know about the culinary aspect. I respect you highly for that. We all know about your friendship and your warmth aspect. How you cared about your friends, people who loved you, people you loved. And I know how you cared about Greg. I know you wanted to put him through a wall a few times, but we usually do want to hurt the ones we love. And here's something I'll never forget. The day that you said to me, you come to La Cubana, you don't pay a dime. Now, I'm not expecting La Cubana to honor that spoken voucher, but it was a really sweet sentiment. And that's pretty much you in a nutshell. I can go on, but I'm not going to take any more time from this podcast. I want to say I love you. It was an honor working with over 100 hours worth of your voice between you and Greg on this podcast for over 100 episodes. A true honor. Frankly, I believe if you want to hear who you really are, I mean, as close as you can get without being off record, it would be social media and this podcast. I mean, because let's face it, the Food Network, they cut you up and they snip you up. Yes, you get some essence of you. And I know it made you famous and gave you a great platform and jumping off point. But honestly, this really captured you as a person. It gave you way more than a two-dimensional Carl Ruiz. So with that, I'm going to say, I'll never forget you. I'll think about you often, smile, laugh to myself. I want to give your mother a giant electronic hug. Let's call it that. This goes out to your mother. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Ruiz, that your son was taken too soon. Carl, love you, miss you, baby.
Ooh, no, come on, man. Do like rusing or something.
What's rusing? It's Ruizing.
Oh, Ruizing. Oh, now you're finally going to tell me how to pronounce your last name.
Well, because rusing sounds fucking dirty.
God, it does.
He's always there to make you laugh or take a food porn photograph. Just reading his shirts and hats will make life better.
I'm like exotic. I'm like a fat unicorn.
He's a chef who plays to win. In fact, the knife was named after him. Just watch him as he works. He's a real go-getter.
Hit it, Joey.
You could tell by his Instagram that he doesn't give a damn. He don't need no reason to go Ruizing. He goes Ruizing all night long. The Cuban does what he wants.
Wrap it up.
He doesn't give a fuck. He don't need no reason to go Ruizing. He goes Ruizing all night long.
It's OpieRadio.
Crossing the street to get to Gebhard's beer culture on the Upper West Side, a place that's very special to me and Carl. Matt.
What's going on, Opie?
What's up, buddy?
How are you?
I'm all right. I've been better, man.
Yeah?
Thanks for having us.
Of course, good to have you back.
Yeah. I guess we're going to do a little podcast to talk about Carl.
I think today's the day for that.
What's your thoughts on him?
Well, that was a hell of a gut punch.
You think?
Jesus. He will be missed.
Right.
Yeah, didn't see that coming.
No. Hey, what's up, Ben? How are you, buddy? My neighbor.
What's up, man?
How are you, man?
Good.
Come on in for a beer, all right?
Going to pick up Bonnie right now.
Oh, right on, man. Life goes on, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, see
life
you
goes on, all right? Have a tremendous tragedy, and my friend's just going to get his daughter and has no idea what's going on there, Matt. I know you're a big Pearl Jam fan. On the way over to Gebhard's, I was singing Just Breathe.
Oh, yeah. A hell of a song.
And it's appropriate, too, right?
I think so. I think quite.
All right, Matt. Thanks for having us. Walking into Gebhard's on the Upper West Side.
Somebody missing him. There he is.
What's up? Nick Solaris. Oh, Vic Henley. What's up, Nick?
What's up, brother?
Seeing these guys for the first time.
Great.
Littlefoot.
Hey.
What's up, buddy? And Vic.
Absolutely.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right, you know.
This is the first time seeing you. I don't even want to look at you. I'm going to cry.
I like it. It'll be okay.
Oh, my God.
The crying is turned into laughing now for me right now. I was telling Nick earlier.
Yeah.
It went from lead. You know.
Oh, fuck. Fuck Paula Dean. What do you think of Paula Dean, Nick Solaris? Let it out.
I'm just shocked that we're friends with like some of the alleged funniest comics in the business, and fucking Paula Dean was the first one to bust out the roast joke for Carl. I mean, that's ridiculous, guys. Come on, like seriously.
I'm not really even bothered by it. What did she say exactly?
It was some hacky joke, but the point is that Carl would have found it funny that somebody made a joke about his. It's like Carl died, right?
Yeah.
He would have found this funny.
Yeah.
And the fact that extended the whole thing by 24-hour news cycle, you know, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it keeps his name in the paper for a while, right? Before Carl's name starts fading away.
The kid made it. It's never going to fade away because Ruizing will resound, right?
I hope so. But well, people say you die twice, and the second time is when your name is uttered for the last time. In Carl's case, that's going to be a long time.
Those are going to be the long echoes, right?
I kind of agree with you. The Paula Dean thing, I wasn't bothered by. Fans of Carl certainly wanted her neck. But with that said, I fucking hate her.
Listen, Vic Henley's delighted because now he can roll out his Paula Dean routine again, right? That's his comedy gold right there, you know. He writes in squirrel blood because he's from the South.
Before things get too crazy, Nick, thoughts on Carl, man? For real.
It's what can you say about the guy? I have never met somebody that was funnier than Carl Ruiz. That guy made me laugh. He made everyone laugh, and that was his gift. He could break anyone. If he was an illegal immigrant, he could get the ICE agent to laugh. You know what I mean? Like, he was seriously the funniest guy and also the biggest heart. And look, that's what happened. His heart was too big, ultimately, right? His heart was too big for the world. And when, you know, we'll get into the whole thing about the marriage and all of that stuff. But, you know, he
took a few hits.
It's not a cliche to say that he died from a broken heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But really, the loveliest, funniest guy, some incredible talent. Should have been a broadcaster.
Yeah.
Was just a natural, like should have been just been doing broadcasting.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking to his funny, you know, I was lucky enough to work with so many of the funniest people in the world, and pound for pound, Carl could beat. I'll say this, pretty much all of them. Pretty much all of them, because a lot of people have a really funny act on a stage, but when they're just hanging out and having drinks or eating food, no one compared to Carl. He was naturally the funniest fucking guy I've ever met in my life.
That's the thing. It was his quick wit that was unparalleled. Yeah. Like, he naturally funny, naturally quick. Could he have crafted a comedy set? He probably wouldn't have had the discipline because he could be getting drunk in the... You know, he was like a Belushi-like character in many ways.
Well, my buddy Brother Weeze in Rochester, and, Carl loved hanging in Rochester and hanging on Brother Weeze's show. We went up there a few times over the years. We said, dude, you should be a stand-up. He goes, just get a fucking notepad and write some of this funny shit down, and in no time you'll have an hour.
I think he'd be the kind of guy that would never write anything down, could just get up there and tell stories. Right? And because his stories are so funny, and because he'd come up with stuff on the cuff. I'll tell you, I've been watching a lot of, I watched your Rochester trip with him. I've been watching, his food reviews. If you haven't seen his reviews on YouTube of fast food joints like McDonald's and Subway, they're fucking priceless.
Yeah.
he's the king of the one-worders. You know, Henny Youngman was the king of the one-liners.
Yeah.
This guy on Twitter would be like one-word retorts that would just like decimate. People would delete their accounts off it. You know, he was like absolute genius.
And the other thing, he always downplayed how talented he was as far as being a chef. Could you talk about that for a minute or two? This guy was... You don't think he was talented? before we get into some...
tell you he should have been broadcasting?
Oh, my God. Are you really saying that?
I'm joking. No, Carl was a very talented... Listen, he was a very good chef. He was classically trained, had worked in all the kitchens. Like, you know, what a real chef is, it isn't the guy that makes a pretty floral arrangement that wows. It's the guy that knows about food costs and... hires a kitchen and can do all, and you know, a great restaurant runs without the chef being there, and that's kind of the test of La Cubana now. Like, everyone who's down there, Chef Mario now, and the crew that he hired, like, that's his legacy, his lifeblood, and it should look. If he did his job right, it's going to continue going, right? Yeah. So go down to La Cubana, show some support. Right. You can literally taste that guy's heart and soul.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I could go down there anytime soon. I feel way more comfortable here at Gebhards.
Well,
because this was our hang. We were hanging here before we started the podcast. We did many episodes from here. We used to just hang and do Facebook Live from here. And then every once in a while, he would be in the area, call me up, and we would just hang here and have a few beers without recording anything.
Yeah, but the empanadas suck. You not recording something? I don't believe that. What, you ran out of batteries?
Oh, there were times.
Once the batteries ran out and Vic didn't record it, he didn't record a conversation.
Yes, absolutely. He thinks that you should... to go with your high-tech equipment that we have here. It's fucking $1 million worth of stuff. You need one little red light, so that way when we're talking to you, you know that you're actually recording. Then when the light goes off, then we actually know you're being you and not fucking recording.
Well, I got to put some of this down on tape, right?
No, this especially.
Yeah.
We had to do this. Yeah. This is super important,
well,
I think.
It's cathartic, right? You know, and like, I'm not a funeral guy. I don't, you know, the thought of seeing Carl laid out or whatever, Carl's corpse, because that's not fucking Carl. You know, Carl was alive, and there's, you know, like that. So I don't do the funeral thing. I don't, you know.
It's just weird. A guy that was just so full of life, so full of energy, had the biggest heart, gentle soul. Where the fuck does all that go, man? He just dies instantly, and that's it. It
goes into the universe. It goes all around us. Nah, fuck it. It goes all around us. You know, we pick up all of his energy. It disperses to all of us. The fact that we're going to be here for the next 5 hours.
Tell me about all right, Genius. Tell me about the shorthand on the submarine in 1967. You don't fucking know, do you? Because only Carl knew that shit. Carl had a matrix of knowledge that no one will ever have.
We're talking about Philadelphia?
Are we
talking about Philadelphia and the shit disappearing?
I'm talking about the stuff in his head.
Vic, do you know? You want to fill me in?
I know exactly what you're talking about. It's one of those. It's the battle. What do you call it? Aircraft carrier fucking vanished.
Supposedly in Philly.
Supposedly, right, in Philadelphia. There's a movie about it called The Philadelphia Experiment. It's a whole time travel, genre, wormhole, ship shifting.
Are you saying Carl's coming back?
Yes. In 20 minutes.
The Philadelphia cheesesteak experiment?
With the Chaps pit beef. It's the Chaps pit beef experiment.
A lot of people said early on the podcast, early on the radio show version, before we met you, Nick Solaris, that Carl would talk about how easy it is to disappear. And a lot of fans are like, that's what he did. He told you from day one he was going to disappear and how easy it was.
I am totally convinced that in 10 years or something, one of us will be like in some remote part of the United States at a store, and there's a guy that kind of looks like Carl. He's going to look over the shelves. He's going to look at you. He's going to wink, and that's it. You're just going to nod your head, and you're like, all right, he did it. He escaped and moved on to something else. Yeah.
God damn it, he's in Butte. Who would have thought he's in Butte, fucking Montana? But goddamn, there he is, right there.
With Andy Kaufman and Elvis Presley. Right. It's a hell of a threesome, by the way.
Really looks
selling Sioux Indian trinkets.
Hey, Littlefoot, of course, we haven't had you on the podcast in a while, and you were part of well over 100 episodes. So thoughts on Carl, man?
You know, Carl's the kind of guy that just collected people, right? You know, he collected me as in part of that, and a lot of stories I don't think I can actually tell because I've sworn to secrecy, but He was a good friend, and he was somebody that he'd call you at 10 o'clock at night and just say, run something by him. And whether you were in the public inner circle around him or not, when you were with him, you were in that inner circle. And it's a great loss, but we were... I don't know. I feel like he's still around, We have all these incredible memories and all the lessons and, shit that he taught us.
Yeah. And you gave me and Carl the biggest laugh. He's not here to say, but I'll say the biggest laugh of my life when you were telling that whole story about your ex making out on the security camera, and I asked if you got hard. And Carl started laughing, and because he started laughing so hard, then I went off. And it's pretty much the biggest laugh I've ever had in my life.
He would still text me and ask me questions about that. Yeah. You see your ex-wife lately? I knew my ex-wife was talking to this guy.
Did she know him? I always like to know the forensics.
Absolutely. We'd been to their wedding. We'd been to his wedding.
Oof.
And
was he friends with you too?
He tried to be. And he came over to my ex-mother-in-law's, came up to Massachusetts, brought presents for everybody. More of the red flags are starting to, come out. Now, I'm really trying to make this work, and we'd sort of gotten through a rough patch, and it's just, she was in a total other place. And we come back to New York. Then this guy moves down. He leaves his wife, and he moves down for a job. I'm sorry, not for a job. He wants to go to culinary school. He's in his 30s, and he wants to go to culinary school. And what did you teach us? Bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm just getting more, no, we're just friends. Everything's fine. I'm like, nobody spends this much time and talking about the stuff you guys are talking about in front of me. She was out working one night, and I got home off a gig early. Place where we lived, the television, somebody rings the bell downstairs, to get in the building, and you could turn to this channel on the TV, right, and you'd be able to see who was at the door. I sometimes, for fun, would just kind of go up and down the dials just to see who was walking by the TV or the door, and I'm doing that, and I catch her and this guy right on the thing. So I hit in the days of VCR, I hit the VCR. I hit record on whatever the tape was in there, and I have, you don't hear anything, but I have her laughing, has a bigger smile than she had for a long time, and then the two of them just start making out right in front of my fucking door.
Wow!
So,
how hard did you get?
I was... I walked right into that one.
You dead, man. You dead. Go check him. He's dead. I don't even want to look around right now. You're dead. My man is dead.
Hang on, everybody. There she goes.
Sherrod has arrived. Sherrod, what's up, brother?
He smells good.
God, you do smell good.
What's up, man? Good to see you.
First time I'm seeing Sherrod, too, man.
Hey, guys.
This is a tough one, huh?
What happened?
Sherrod's been asleep since Thursday.
What happened I don't know about? Who's all these white people?
Greg Hughes' son failed a math test. Bad news.
Tell him sit next to an Asian kid. Too soon? Did I Shane Gillis myself?
Not too soon.
Who? You say don't copy off the Cuban?
That's right.
What's your thoughts, brother?
I mean, it's sad, I did win the Deadpool, so y'all owe me $50 each. 50 each, niggas. You know the rules.
Okay, you want to hear the cruelest thing so far to me that's also really hilarious. Carl locked me in my apartment, okay? So I have a deck.
Right.
And the key only locks from the inside. And so I was out of town, and he's lost the key, so I haven't been able to go out on my deck for 2 months. I'm locked inside my apartment, for real. And so I told my mom this, just because she knew we were staying there, and she thought it was really sweet that I was helping a friend and all this stuff. And so when all this happened, I called her Saturday, and I'm like, hey, man, my friend died. My buddy, you're the one that was staying there. And I'm like, yes. She goes, oh, my God. Well, I guess you ain't getting that lock money back. Promised me he was going to fix it and pay for it. And I told her that. The first goddamn thing my mother said was, well, I guess you ain't getting that lock money back.
Then she made a joke about the restaurant industry killing people.
Hey, Paula Dean, hey!
Paula Dean it.
Stunt Brain. Stunt Brain came up from Delaware. What the fuck?
Happy to see you, but not happy to be here. You know what I'm saying? God bless you.
What's up, buddy? What's your come here. We're talking obviously about Carl. What's your thoughts? Get it on the record.
I'm still stunned, but I'm trying to figure it out. Did he ever lie to any of us?
I would say 100% yes.
Goddamn. He was telling some of these women that my apartment was his. When he was staying with me, I'm like, how are you explaining to them that you're on the pull-out couch if this is your apartment? Because I said, Vic's very old. That's what he said. Vic's got a bad back.
He told women, but he never told me a lie.
How many of those women did he say was the one?
Right.
So, no.
Oh, it's the one tonight.
Right.
No,
You're
well,
the
that's
one tonight.
that.
You're
Hold
the
on.
one this
Let me
hour.
explain that. Carl would never say you're the one, but he had a way of making them all think they were the one.
He was very honest that he had been divorced for a year and a half and he was just being single. But every single one of them thought they were the one.
And he was just saying that.
Absolutely. 3 of them have accosted me on the street in the past week.
Really?
Yes. 3 different.
He took out the Upper East Side.
Oh, yes. That was boom. It's like fucking napalm.
There's a lot of girls up there, though.
He lives there.
A lot of girls up there. Lord have mercy.
What else, Stunt Brain?
Oh, man, it's just such a shock still, I walked down through La Cubana just about an hour ago just to walk through the place and catch the vibe, and his vibe is still in there. You walk around, it's silent. And I looked at his boombox is up on the shelf, and they're doing prep work, and it's just eerily silent, and the flame is out in the grill, and you just get a chill walking through there.
Oh, the energy's gone in that kitchen. I'm sure they'll do fine, and the food will still come out and be nice, but they lost the soul.
That's right.
In that kitchen.
The spirit is gone. And Carmen had tears in her eyes when I saw her when I walked in. She's like, oh, no, Poppy. And you're like, oh, my God. Don't get me started. I just dried up a little bit. Just so sad.
He fell asleep in that place a lot.
Is it called sleep? Was it sleep?
A lot.
He called me on the golf course one morning. He said, I just woke up behind the bar.
Oh, I got that call, too.
And then he told you what happened the night before?
Oh, yeah. He always liked talking about the night before.
Yeah, we had like last Wednesday or Thursday, we fucking wilded out in there to 8 in the morning. Me, him, Artie Fuqua, and some girl. And
I love
the common denominator through all these stories.
Lucky woman.
when I left at like 7, 8 in the morning. He was still there, dancing. That's how I remember the nigga.
You just remember him dancing. Absolutely.
Me being tuckered out, and he's still dancing.
Last time I saw Carl, I was handing him a trophy at a barbecue competition where he won like best in show.
Was that in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
At Pig Beach?
It was Pig Island.
Pig Island, right.
Out by in Red Hook. So everyone was trying to, he was the most highly trained chef at the whole event, right? All of these other guys are like trying to do gussied up stuff. He's got a whole hog laid out. He's reaching in, pulling out muscles and just handing it to people. That got him best presentation. So literally the last time I saw him was like 3 weeks ago. I handed him the trophy, gave him a hug, got on an airplane, was gone for 3 weeks. He died on my birthday to fucking make this.
Way to go, Carl. Way to go.
Oh, at least you're not blaming me. So I texted him the night before, invited him to my birthday dinner, and never responded. And I have actually a picture of the empty seat where he should have fucking been.
That's terrible. Last time I saw him was right here at Gebhards. Right at this fucking table. We did that last episode together, and then I walked him to the subway.
Well, you probably walked into Gray's Papaya and then the subway.
Well, no, it's great. So We finished the podcast, but then I had to get him to the subway, so I just kept the thing on. But pretty much the last conversation I had with Carl was how great the hot dogs are at Gebhard's. He goes, they do a pretty good job at the hot dogs. And then I said, he said, I love you. I said, I love you. And then I hugged him and turned away as he went in, down into the subway. You just never fucking know when it's over, man, like that.
Yeah, Ruizing was relentless, full ball, 24/7, 365 for however long it was going to go. But, we knew it wasn't going to be. It's not like, these people that like eat granola and crunchy food every day. Right. They're going to live to 150. Yeah. But that was pretty sudden.
Well, the funny thing is,
especially because like Cubano was just taking off. It was like it was just all coming back together. Like Carl was getting his shit together, right? And then to be like, just,
It's a kick in the fucking gut, Nick, is what it is. I used to joke with him that, Carl, you're going to die over a hashtag. And he would be like, yeah, I am. He would go with it.
Literally a living hashtag.
Well, the one time he didn't Ruiz, which was the last night of his life, killed him.
He needed that shot.
He didn't do it. The only time he didn't do it. He was hanging out with friends. It was a low-key night. Went to bed at 11:30.
It was like he went to the aquarium.
Yeah.
Then he went back to Gloria's house, right, and was like, he had crab cakes and a pit beef sandwich, and then went back into the guest room, and it was probably like Laura Ashley wallpaper. She probably had like 50 throw pillows on the bed. He was probably like throwing them all off, right? He gets into the most boring bed on earth. That's what fucking killed him. It was the mundanity of the whole thing, right?
And if he knew, he probably would be laying there going, really? This is how I'm going to go out? Really? In this fucking room?
It's her daughter's. It's her older daughter who has now moved out, but it's her daughter's former room. No, you were close. No, I meant in terms of the decoration and the wallpaper. Is what I was saying.
Motel 6 was inspired by the Laura Ashley prints of the. But yeah, just and for him to be like literally the most boring night of his life. Like,
that's just insane.
She said he didn't even have a drink.
I know.
Like,
yeah.
Yes, for the first. Well, I was going to say for the first time, but she did say that for the first time he didn't finish his shot the night before.
She said she'd never seen that ever. Yeah, that he's never. He doesn't chug the beer and kill it like Animal House, but he would always do the shot and then nurse the beer for the next half hour or so. Right. And she said that's the only time she's ever seen him not finish. He kind of sipped it and put half of it back down.
Unbelievable. When was the last time you saw him, Vic? I know, but I mean for the podcast. Yeah. You guys went out.
Yeah, we went downtown. It was the weirdest thing in the world because we would go to the bar. For everybody here knows, you randomly get I'm coming over. So here comes the freight train, whether you want it or not. Yeah. We're about to go grizzly bear wrestling. So it was. So we were. It was really early. I'm like, "Aren't you working?" And he's like, "I'm mad." So we go to 2 blocks down from where I live, and this kid's always trying to get us to go downtown to see jazz. He plays jazz in some club in the East Village, but he's always asking us like 3 a.m. And me and Carl are always like, fuck you, we're not going anywhere at 3 a.m. with you. So this night was like 10:30, last Thursday. And so we went with him. And it was the weirdest hodgepodge of, literally, it's an 8-piece band. And they got piano, trombone, horns. 4 of them are 75 to 85 years old, and the other 4 are 25 to 35 years old.
It was like Vic and Carl.
And we're back.
And we're back.
But no, we sat there. The guy was so happy because he'd been begging us to go for a year. I wish I could think of the name of it. I got so fucked up.
Is it the village?
It's in the East Village somewhere. I mean, it's not like, it isn't Blue Note or one of the famous ones. It's some little... Carl used to love to go to B flat, but it wasn't that.
Okay.
And I didn't mean to rhyme that. And so...
it was cute.
We sat there. Somebody was trying to pick him up, and there was one chair by itself. So I went over there and sat down and just sat there and watched this crazy-ass geriatric millennial jazz band play together. And it was good. They're playing Count Basie and Duke Ellington, and they're fucking killing it. Nice. And me and him were giggling. We'd walk outside, smoke a cigarette, he'd talk. I'd sit there and bullshit with him. And then he got on the cab back to Queens, and he said, I'm going to Gloria's tomorrow. I'll call you. I'm coming back Saturday. I'm working. I'm like, well, I'm watching Auburn A&M if you're around in the afternoon. And so that was it. He got in the cab to Queens, and I got in the cab uptown. That was it. Probably fucking, I don't know. Wasn't late. 2:30 in the morning, maybe. Wasn't that bad, because we started early for a change.
Yeah, just terrible.
It's fucking awful, man.
We got a lot of fans here. Holy fuck. It was like one tweet, man.
Judd. Come here, Judd. This is my neighbor.
Oh, I know Judd. We busted your balls bad. That was a time I didn't record.
Yes.
And that would have been amazing. That
Probably
was
when I was ignoring you. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But Judd had the misfortune of calling me right after I talked to you, and then I'm in the middle of putting together the list because I told Gloria I would help her call people and make the saddest speech you ever got to get. But he's from Texas A&M, and I'm Auburn, and the game was starting, and he lives next door. So
See, I'm like, hey man, you watching the game next door? What are you doing? Like, we'll go watch the teams play. And he called me. I was like, all right. I'm like, hey man, what's up? He's like, hey, Carl died. I was like, fuck! Like, Jesus, we just wanted to watch the game. And so, this is how I find out about the whole thing. So I'm like, I'll come by during halftime. Like, I don't, like, what is, I don't know. Man, it was
all
just.
I kept saying was like a fucking prep.
Carl died.
No ball game. Bye.
Like, what? Yeah.
When I called you, Vic, I went hack.
So fucking mad.
I went hack with you. I go, are you sitting down? And I went, and after I hung up with you, I'm like, you're an idiot.
Well, you probably have it recorded, don't you?
Wow. I'm wondering if Gloria has any footage that I could post. Yeah, I'm kidding. I went with the thing.
When you called me,
Maybe she has a webcam in that room.
I figured it was hey, I got something to tell you, and I figured, well, this is all right, we're rolling somewhere. This is the call at on a Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to see daylight again until Monday.
All your family and loved ones.
And you gave me the news, and I'd never heard your voice that shaken before. And I'm pushing the phone to my ear because I'm thinking, Carl's behind him, and they're fucking with me. And I said,
sure like doing that.
I said that. I said, you fucking with me. And you're like, no. But I literally half expected that, he was going to pull the phone out of your hand and be like, fuck you. We're downstairs. You're coming out now.
We were having an amazing day, and my phone was charging, and it rang, and I looked, and I saw Gloria, and I went, fuck. I knew before I picked that damn thing up. And then I broke down right in front of my kids, and this tells you a lot about Carl. Like, my kids loved him, ran into him a bunch over the years, and oh boy, this one. Anyway, we would watch grocery games, because the kids would get into like, oh my God, that's your friend Carl and all that. They don't really know much about this horse shit. But then when they saw me breaking down because I've got the news, and they're like, oh no, Carl, and they start crying, and then they grab me and hug me. That probably was the worst out of all of this.
Well, they recognized, the collective feeling the pain and making you feel better. And like you said, they were big fans.
But the point I want to make, sorry, I got off track, but we would watch grocery games, and I'm like, hey, you want to talk to Carl? And I would call him and put the kids on the phone, and just like everyone in this fucking room, whether you knew him personally or listened on the podcast, he gave his undivided attention to my kids, and to the point where he was like, okay, they're good, and then he would maybe move on, but he would wait until he made another moment,
But it was that connection that, like, when he spoke to anyone, it didn't matter if it was a fan in the street, you felt like the most important person on earth, right? It was a complete everything, and of course his personality was so dazzling that it was just to have that person garnish that kind of attention on you was like flattering. And there wasn't, like I said, we'd be hanging out, he'd go out for a drink, go out for a cigarette, and be like 20 minutes I go out there and he's like arguing with people on Twitter. There literally was nobody, he would punch down as far as he could get. There wasn't somebody with 0 followers, he would be just hammering them, right? I was like, you gotta pick your battles, mate. You don't attack somebody with less followers than you.
And I can't tell you how many of those people that were blocked by Carl were like, could you put in the good word for me? Because they weren't even mad. They were like, I want to be back in with this whole Ruizing
because
thing.
That's the thing. The Ruizing, it was not like any other social media. We all have our social media feeds, and we're all jackass. Ours is curated. His was just a feed of his life. Right. It was if he was feeling depressed, he'd hold a fucking puppy. Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? He was very vulnerable on that thing. And I think that ultimately it sort of, it was, in a sense, it was reinforcing, right? the behavior was validated by the reaction that he got, and that wasn't ultimately the best thing for his health. Right. At the same time, the joy that he gave people and the idea about living life to its fullest, like that's the amount of people that he touched with that is like, it's pretty amazing,
right?
You know.
And then there's a bunch of fans here, and I've been reading everything online. I don't know when he had time to do the podcast, to do guys' grocery games, or cook at La Cubana, because everyone has a story like, oh, he donated to my GoFundMe page without telling anybody. He complimented me on my cooking. I needed a friend to talk to, and he just gave me his fucking number, and I called him. He goes, hey, cuz, where are you? I'll meet you. He was doing this left and right without pretty much telling any of us.
Yeah. He was a non-stop machine, man. He brought a lot of joy in our lives. Who's going to get his that Gucci bag that he had? Anybody know about that Louis Vuitton?
I was going to say it wasn't Louis. It wasn't Gucci, it was Louis. It was Louis.
It was definitely a Louis Vuitton.
Louis Vuitton bag, niggas. They ain't going to bury that with him, are they? Never miss him, man. Love
He
Carl.
would give you different watches to wear from time. I mean, really super crazy because he was into the watch thing, and he's got a crazy good collection.
It's not just the collection; it's the amount of knowledge that guy has.
Oh, hell
He could just talk like
absolutely
hours and hours about the different like the mechanisms, how far back they date, the complications. It was unbelievable.
Like you said though about the kids though, I put it on my Instagram.
I saw that. Yeah. Everyone should go to Vic Henley on Instagram. That, you asshole, that brought new tears to my eyes though.
Well, it was a great day. Nikki was in town. Yeah, my girl was in town. She's got 4 kids.
Right.
And so he was working on the menu at the restaurant. And this fucker was there. And so I put all the pictures. We were down there just eating, and they're making food, and Nick's going, make this kind of burger, and we're trying different things, and they're eating. And then he'd get mad, and for somewhere in the middle when he got mad about something, he's got that giant oven. It's like 500 degrees. And there was a bunch of day-old bread there, like rolls, that people trying to get the bread contract at the restaurant. Okay. So he was aggravated with something, so he threw all his shit down. He looks at all the kids and he goes, let's throw rolls in the oven. And he drew a line on the fucking floor, and we all had to stand behind it, and you had to try to ring it. I forgot who hit the first one. It might have been Lola.
And that made him as happy as anything else he did.
And then he gave Lola his apron. Yeah. So then he gave her the apron.
He especially loved kids, you know, and I think that's one of the things about the marriage was like he loved the family idea and all of that. And, you know, Ruizing was kind of born out of
survival.
Well, but also something to make up for the pain of the loss of that, you know, and also that restaurant, which was a labor of love, and what a fucking great restaurant that was too, like, you know. So, and it's just a shame because like
you're talking about Marie's, right, in Chatham.
Yeah, in Chatham.
He lost that. He lost his kids.
Currently out of business, closed, shut down, not open. Health department violation. They found 2 rats fucking in the ragoon.
Angry hillbilly Yelp user reports restaurant closed.
Who would eat like that? I'd be okay with that. People have a goddamn problem.
What about the wardrobe? You know. Where did that go? Like, that is like, he must have had probably 500 T-shirts.
God, way more. And he stole the creepy cabin. He had nothing in there but just piles and piles of T-shirts and just easily 200 to 300 hats, no problem.
He stole my T-shirt. It's somewhere.
Why does he need another shirt?
He came by.
He should be giving out
before we met at the bar. He popped by my apartment for a second, and he was, you know, smoking a cigarette. And we were talking, and then he saw my friends custom made me a T-shirt in the Auburn color, so it's navy blue, and then just in orange it says, "This is my tailgating T-shirt." Oh, okay. And so my friends made it for me. Kathleen Madigan had it made for me on the road because they were at a get this done place, and they thought of me, and they knew Auburn A&M was coming up. So as soon as he sees it laying there, bang, I want this! He fucking took off. He took off the shirt he had on and put on my fucking shirt. And I'm not going to get it back.
He's getting buried in it.
It's gone. I hope so. Well, I'll take that.
Oh, he better not be buried in a fucking suit.
Well, they're going to do that to him. You know,
they can't do that to him.
That's why I'm not going.
Yeah, right. We're boycotting the wedding. The wedding.
Whoops. What?
Same fucking thing. It's the same thing.
Crocs are on. As long as they get spared in the Crocs, and at least that's part of that. There you go.
It slides.
You're talking about, how you would meet people and just become instant friends with them. So I reached out to some of the folks that couldn't make it out that live on the West Coast, and Tracy sent us a message. He said, Tracy Perea, she's, to Carl, everyone was someone. He could come across somebody in an airport, buy him a shot, and they became instant friends for life. The amount of people that have reached out and shared stories, like there was a guy and his wife that Carl ran into in Jacksonville, Florida, and he had so inspired them from one conversation that his wife is now the sous chef at a local restaurant. Wow.
There's a million of those type of stories. What made this just a little bit easier was the fact that when something like this happens, it's gut-wrenching. Obviously, we've all dealt with death. If you live long enough, unfortunately, you deal with this way too much. But you almost feel like you're alone when it first hits, and then you realize through, obviously all of us, but more importantly, the fans of the podcast and the Food Network and all that, you realize, wow, this guy was so fucking special and touched so many goddamn people. Well, and these people that never met him are feeling the exact, pretty much very close to what we're all feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, he made the New York Times. Well, to me, the New York Times is the gold standard in terms of like reporting deaths, all of those things, obituaries. Like every famous obituary, that's the Times.
They're a bunch of ghouls. They take pride in their obituaries.
But the other thing,
they love smelling death.
The old gray lady.
The old gray lady.
But on the other hand, the fact that he made it says something a lot of like, listen. Probably 50 chefs a fucking day die in New York. Because Paula Deen wasn't really joking. It is a fucking stressful industry, right? Those guys don't make the paper. It wasn't like Carl had even been reviewed in the last decade.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the Guy Fieri review counts, but that wasn't a good one. But what I loved about Carl, though, was he was the worst dressed man on earth, but it was conscious. Yeah. Like, it's like, it was completely, everything he wore was manufactured to just be the worst possible combination.
But it didn't feel like it didn't feel like he was badly dressed. Anyone else wore that any of those outfits, you would be laughed at.
You'd be like, where's the short bus?
Right, but with him it was the ultimate, like, dare I say, hipster or cool. You know what I mean?
But it's like with cooking. Carl knew the rules, so therefore he could go and talk about McDonald's and Burger King and, in the same way, like he knew what a real watch and what real dress should be like, but he was consciously sort of punk rock about that, right? He was subversive about clothing and about luxury, and that was the other thing. He democratized food. He made food
there you go.
Something that was that anyone could relate to, not just a food writer or a chef, somebody that, is, or a gourmand. It was like, food is for everyone. Everyone fucking eats. That's how we're alive, guys.
The sticking with the crazy clothes, we were at the meeting when they were telling him about the money. I'm literally at the pitch meeting when the whole group was, and Freddie, the main guy that was running this thing, putting the restaurant together. And so we're kind of on a banquet, and there's like about 8 or 9 people kind of going around the corner. And I'm sitting next to Freddie, and Carl's across from me, and Freddie's kind of teasing him about this, and I can't sure, this is the first time I met Freddie, he's an old Italian guy, and I can't tell if it's getting to like the Joe Pesci point in Goodfellas, like I really don't know. It's getting, because Freddie's busting his balls about, you're too good, you don't need to do this, you don't need to wear a hat and a wacky shirt, you don't need to be a weirdo, and Carl's like, and tactfully, classily, as best he can, fuck you, this is who I am, fuck you, I don't give a shit, fuck you. So this is why I think it's escalating into the Pesci world. And Freddie goes, just take the fucking hat off and talk to me man to man here for a couple seconds. Carl's like, okay, no problem. So he takes the hat off, lays it down, they talk about 2 or 3 minutes maximum. Carl looks across me, I'm sitting next to Freddie. I didn't even know it was there. There's a bag behind me on the top of the banquet. He goes, Henley, hand me that bag. I reach over, I hand him the bag. He pulls out another hat, puts it right back on. I'm screaming, and then Freddie died laughing, and it turned into there wasn't the awkward moment where Joe Pesci's going to kill everybody.
He didn't give a fuck.
That was so damn funny. Henley, hand me that bag.
I tell you what, man. One thing, I knew Carl for maybe like a year and a half. Maybe I met him through Vic, and that's how I met you guys too. Well, I saw you at the clubs, but
our other friend died.
Well, William Stevenson died, and that's when I met you. Yeah. I heard about that, and so I texted Vic because I know they were good friends. I said, "Hey man, what are you doing today?" And then he texted me back, and he said, "Carl's coming over with cold cuts." I was like, "All right, so come on over."
That's a good time right there.
It was just the 4 or 5 of us.
It was literally like 4. Yeah, exactly.
And then he stayed for 16 hours. He was there. I remember. Because then it's just me and him at my kitchen table at 6:30 in the morning. Like, God damn.
Well, here's the difference. A lot of people, when something happens, they go, I'm there. Whatever you need, give me a call. But the real people in this world just fucking show up. Yeah. And Carl showed up. He got the word that you were hurting.
Yes.
And I didn't even know at that point. He called me. I'm like, all right, obviously I'm in. He called Sherrod. Sherrod's like, I'm in. And next thing you know, he dragged us all to, try to comfort you through your pain.
William Stevenson, we passed him. That's how you had to. If you want to work the cellar, you got to get 2 or 3 people that work there to vouch for you. So me and William vouched for him, and then when we heard it happen, Carl talked to me that morning. He thought, and I wasn't in the mood, so I kind of low-keyed it. Then when he started researching it and finding out it was William and how important he was to me and Sherrod and everybody, he called me. He's like, "You stupid son of a bitch, I'm coming to your fucking house right now. I'm at the Polish meat store." Something I don't know, but the best fucking goddamn bologna I've ever had.
And getting all those illegal cheeses, remember?
I haven't been.
Carl would get so mad. He's like, "You've never had real cheese, you son of a bitch. Try this," because what's the law? Nick knows. The real cheese isn't in America, right, Nick?
No, and Carl would have talked about this because we pasteurize the milk here, so that inherently changes the way that the product comes out, right? Because you've sterilized it, so you've kind of sapped the soul out of it. That said, Carl loved American cheese more than any American.
Seriously, another Carl lie.
It was probably 14% of his diet was American cheese, right? Between the Filet-O-Fish, cheeseburgers, nachos, right? Like queso, all of that stuff. Yeah. But that was the thing about Carl. Like, it was 5-star or dive bar, right? Yeah. Anything other than that was banal to him, right? The middle ground was boring, right? But it was those dive bars or that fancy champagne bar in the sky. Like, that's what he loved. Like, the extremes.
What I take from, hanging out with Carl when he started getting me into the food world a little bit, I always thought you had to pay a lot of money to get a really good meal. And we would go to these towns like Philly in particular, and he would take us on these food tours. And we weren't going to any, Steven Starr restaurants or what have you. It was down and dirty in the middle, that pizza place in the middle of the ghetto.
The burger bar, same thing. It was like a $5 burger bar.
And you'd walk in and stupid me, because I'm still a newbie, but I was really bad back then. I'm like, how the fuck could this place possibly have good food? And it blew away like the really good restaurants that I've been to over the years. Joe's, Joe's Jr. on the east side. It's a little quiet diner that most people don't know about. And
one of the best hamburgers in New York.
Well, I got to give Nick Solaris credit for that. And then, me and Carl would go there from time to time. But you're talking one of the best hamburgers in New York, and there's nothing fancy about it.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what Carl loved. He liked pure expressions of things, right? So he will go to Flushing and have 99-cent dumplings, and guess what? They're as good to him as the place when you go to the expensive place in Chinatown or the tourist trap in Midtown. Like, to him, it wasn't about what you spend, it's what you get out of it. And he could get so much joy out of humble things.
And one of the things I loved about spending time with Carl is that if you didn't know something, he didn't make you feel stupid. I mean, sure, we did the bits on the podcast, right? But he was very sincere about teaching you, what the difference of the food was, or why this was good, or why this watch was better than that watch, or why that train from 1900 was better than that train from... I mean, he had this encyclopedic knowledge of everything, but you felt not... he didn't condescending. Yeah. Remember when we did the Rochester trip last December? I think we just walked into Brother Weese's studio. And I think it was Brother Weeze or maybe the other co-host whose name I can't remember was talking about like a Michelin 5-star, and Carl's like, "That is only 3." No, I swear it's a Michelin 5. No, it's only 3. And then it's all right, fine. And then he turned it into a bit for the next 30 minutes. So, your Michelin 5-star thing over there, and you still didn't feel bad about it. He could take any situation and, really just prepare something different about it. fantastic.
He liked it that I was always mean, but only about music. So it was just the opposite of what you're saying. But if somebody, Wednesday night, I was with him Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 in a row. And Wednesday night we were down at the restaurant, and the whole place is closed. It's like 3 in the morning, and we're all just taking turns yelling at the computer to play different songs. And yeah, you did, yeah, right. Absolutely. So some girl yells out. So he sent me this video after I woke up the next morning, and he'd sent me just this 10-second clip, and it's me at the bar, and some girl, you can hear some girl goes, "Whose thing should I say or should I go?" And you can hear me going, "I want to punch you in the face right now." And I only said it to make him laugh. I totally only said it.
Oh, Lord of mercy. I miss him. I'm a Mr. Boy. We had too much fun.
We all had a blast with him. My God.
But, you know.
Remember Nantucket?
Yeah. We had a ball in Nantucket.
I thought one of you guys was going to come wearing the terry cloth sweater or robe or whatever it was.
The only person didn't get one. I was out. They all
Those girls, by the way. Those girls still called. Like, 2 came to the Comedy Cellar.
You hijacked the whole Bachelorette.
Yeah, it was a bunch of, those girls was hot as shit, too. 2 came to the cellar.
It was just a party every fucking time wherever we went, man. He knew where to go and just how to get everybody together.
But I was trying to find y'all on Nantucket, and I'm like, where are they? Because somehow or other, there was like an hour and a half. Then I went and did a show. I think we were actually working.
That's right.
And it ain't that big. It's an island. And so, but then sooner than I go walking into this one bar on the corner, and it's you and him and 19 women. It's the whole full-on bachelorette party, and y'all are in the middle. The girls have circled around them. And they're all wearing these hoodies. And all the girls are touching them because they're so soft. So every now and then one of the girls just walk up and go, "Oh my God, it's so soft." So it was like, I walk in, I'm like, literally watching y'all get petted like little puppies.
Sherrod wrapped it around his waist.
Totally did.
I remember
You
Carl,
were scared to death.
Well, we looked like fools, but Carl, typical Carl.
Carl looks like he does everything.
Yeah, but Carl looked at me and went, "Trust me, cuz." and everyone knew that we were in that bar, so.
No, but you were so sweet because you were like, I think some of these, he loves his wife. He's got kids, so he's not, who he might have been 30 years ago, right? But it was just really funny because you came over and like, I think some of these girls are hitting on me. I stood there for 3 minutes. I go, all these girls are hitting on all of y'all. I go, where's my
Sherrod. Knuckles deep, baby. I regret nothing. Oh, that was a good time.
Oh, good time. Yeah, you never knew, man. You never knew. I mean, the littlest thing would be an adventure with him, right?
He found the car guy, and he rode you around Nantucket and 2 or 3 different guys.
Yeah, that's right.
Even that's a great example because he loved the over the top stuff, but just like we were done for the night, and all of a sudden this guy's like, "I got a vintage car. You want to ride?" Next thing you know, we're getting a tour of Nantucket, and it's another adventure with Carl.
In like a '74 Bronco or something. Yeah. And then he took that one back and got a convertible and switched it over on you. I believe because Carl saw the car out front. Y'all started talking in the street. Next thing you know, I had to go. Then y'all are riding around in the Bronco thing, vintage. And then he switched over to a convertible. And then that's when you got kidnapped. Then I had to go to work, and then fun ensued.
And in Nantucket, so Groundhog's Day, Bill Murray, right? Yeah. You know what? By the end of that movie, everyone's like, "Oh, hi!" They all know him. That was Carl in Nantucket after a day and a half. Everyone, wherever we went, they're waving to him, and he was having adventures behind our backs because he never went to sleep. So he would find another bar, another place to go.
Is Nantucket over already? It happened this year already, right?
Yeah, we did it already in July.
Because I'm thinking, like, we could get the corpse and, like, do, like, a weekend at Bernie's.
No, we're not doing that.
What do you mean push? He has shades on him. He's Carl. He always had shades. He's probably got that knife on him as well.
That's hilarious.
I bet you he does have the Feder knife. Jeff Feder.
Jeff Feder actually texted me this morning, and he goes, "I'm sitting in front of 30 Cubano," because Jeff Feder made the knife that they designed together, and they sold a ton of them. They sold that and he's in the middle of making like the next run, and he's like, "I can't stop thinking about it."
That sucks, man.
And they sold out the first ones, right? Everything sold out.
Hundreds and hundreds.
Wow.
Carl and cars was like Carl and watches and Carl and food.
Yeah.
It was the Fox, the Volkswagen Fox, or the craziest, most exotic. Next weekend, we were supposed to drive a Lamborghini SUV worth $250,000. I talked to him on Wednesday last
Tracy
week
has one of those.
and said, we're coming to town. It's the brand new one.
Yeah.
And we're going to ride with Lauren Fix, the car coach, and then go have dinner at La Cubana. And he's like, I can't believe it.
Let me go. He hated me around expensive cars.
Yes, absolutely. We'll honor his absence.
And that damn Fox. Anyone else? Were you in that car when it went over like 60 miles an hour? The whole fucking thing would shake. That was the scariest car I was ever in. And even that was like, all right, I'm all in. Let's do it.
He had the pig on the front, flying pig. It was so great.
He stole it off the catering van at Marie's. That's the last. She got to keep the van because it went with the restaurant. But he went in there and went, okay, I'll just fucking take this. Unscrewed it and stole it off.
He would drive me home from the...
And then put it on the Fox.
He would drive me home from the old radio show from time to time. And before I would get in the passenger seat, he would go... 1 minute, and then he would actually get a broom out to sweep everything off the passenger seat so I could sit. And there was a lot of fast food wrappers. I know it's hack, but it really was.
Like a teenager's room. He's sweeping off drugs and fucking food and semen.
He would tell me every now and then, rarely though, but during the being single time, he would run into these women. They didn't know who he was. He just ran into them at the local, and they just know he lives nearby. Right. So then he'd get them in the Fox, and here they're going home, and the shit's piled up, and I'll go, what are you telling? Because I've seen all the rappers like we're talking about, and I'm like, what are you telling them you do? Corporate law. I guess that explains why you got fucking 6 months worth of Burger King wrappers come out of the fucking seat. It's corporate law. Standing. So I tell everybody, corporate law. Standing answer.
Stops everyone in their tracks, right?
So speaking of lawyers, how about he had that skiing jacket? And you know how they have that lift ticket thing? He had his lawyer's business card in his
And you get be part of an adventure, right? One would have started, and then you get roped in. And there was one night last summer, I guess it was, when Tim Sabian, calls me up and he goes, Carl just called me. We got to meet him and Sherrod and a bunch of other guys at some bar on the Upper East Side or West Side or wherever the fuck it was. So I come in from Jersey. My job is to make sure that Sabian gets put back in a car and that, like, not, then I rolled with you guys to a couple other places. Then I tapped out. Then it picked up again later at Homestead, down at Freddie's place. And Britton was Carl's friend from Arizona, so she picks up the story and says that basically, so it got a little heated that night between Freddie and his wife.
Oh, really?
And so then Carl gives us the high sign. We all pile into an Uber, and that's the night that Carl lost his phone. And nobody could find him for 3 days because he lost his phone. So he and Britton left for Orlando the next morning, then drove from Orlando to Miami, down to Miami, and he just showed her all around Miami. And then the story picked back up again later, and she said her favorite memory, of course, is anytime Carl would take you... would just show you his favorite places, and you'd kind of go on this Carl reality tour. And about 3 days later, Gloria was able to FedEx him a new phone, and he does a tweet that says, here I am down in Miami, and the first response was from Opie saying, well, that's where Carl's been for the last 3 days. I was about ready to get a search party out.
Well, think about that. The break that he's had now from is the biggest break he's had from social media, barring that time, right? That was like 3 days.
I mean, it looked like if you follow that timeline from Saturday, I think he was tweeting up pretty much to the end.
Oh, God, yeah. And when you have a friend like Carl, if he goes dark for a day or two on social, I'm not the only one thinking, oh boy, here we go, right?
Dead. When he's off for 3 hours, I was like, is he dead?
3 hours?
Somebody call him, please.
Turned out until my cellular data were off.
I used to check Twitter and just make sure he's okay. Just that he's still going.
Yeah. Let me tell you
and then you would breathe. It'd be a tweet about a hot dog or something like, oh.
He's okay. Right. If you were supposed to meet Carl somewhere, like, just tweet at him. Because, like, a text message, I'll get lost in all the other Twitter, but, like, Twitter, top of the pile.
Britton told me that, and I think I started this earlier and didn't finish it, but she was telling me that some dude was hitting on her here, on Saturday or Sunday, and she wrote the guy back. She sent me the text where the guy was like, hey, what are you doing later? And she's like, my friend passed away. I'm putting together plans to go to Florida right now. And then the same fucking dude, because he's probably hitting on a whole bunch of different women, sends her the same text about an hour later. Says, hey, what are you doing later? So she's like, hey, jackass. Read what I just wrote you, and fuck you, lose my number.
It's hard to text and jerk off at the same time. You make mistakes.
Well, that leads to one of my favorite things about Carl was the videos and the pictures I would get Saturday and Sunday. Oh, look at how many people got these videos and pictures?
Who didn't get them is a question.
And like I said, my relationship with Carl was different at times because of the family dynamic and the kids and stuff. So we would be sitting around having breakfast. My kids are on the iPads, and all of a sudden I would announce to the room, oh, Carl texted everybody. And then, like, my wife, what is he saying? And I would go, I'll tell you in a sec. Oh, my God! And I would throw my phone. What happened? All right.
Bang, 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 bang.
They have find out about the shared iCloud account. It's popping up on every iPad.
and then he writes an hour later, please delete all those pictures.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would threaten him with that sometimes.
Oh, many a times I was like, how do I get rid of this immediately?
That fucking maniac. I still have those pictures on my phone. Now that I think about it, yes. He's a maniac.
He came in early one night from the restaurant, and they'd only been on about 2 weeks. And he was there. He was on, but we're up at my house having a glass of wine in my apartment, sitting there, and all of a sudden his phone goes off and it says, I think Sherrod's in the basement making out with someone.
Wait a minute.
At the restaurant, which smells like shit, a sewage pipe. But the reason
Is that asbestos in a
Because that was the club that was supposed to open. They had a pipe burst, so it literally smelled like diarrhea down there, and that didn't bother you. Smashing.
I'm down there smashing. Some of the staff, nigga, you know how I live.
You will not believe what this Negro is doing right now.
It was shut down by the EPA.
The EPA
came in and were like, this is a toxic dump. You got
Oh, no, it's his makeout place.
Makeout is his anal room.
It's over the pipes.
And in that bathroom, too. It's great to fucking have.
Wow.
Great place to fuck.
Shut down by the EPA. By the E-fucking-P-A.
I was down there.
Stop bragging.
It was fun. When you get Carl to say, you're a fucking savage, you know you're a savage.
That's actually what he did.
Savaged it out.
That's what he did say, because look what this savage is doing. He actually did say, I tried to use the N-word to make it
He's
edgy.
like, we all can see you down there fucking. I was like, yeah, no.
I know.
Oh, yeah, because all the security
I
cameras.
know. Have your way
That's
with
what he told me, because they know they can see him.
it. I get this camera ready, nigga. Good time.
We're at Gebhard's, and I know, we all know Dick Cox. That's his real name.
so nice.
He called Matt, and he's got shots. He got shots and beers for us because he couldn't make it here today.
Let's go have one.
OpieRadio.
MyBookie is the place to bet on football every weekend. MyBookie has better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sports book, period. This year, they're hosting the first online handicapping super contest. First place is guaranteed to win at least, check this out, $100,000. And it only costs $100 to enter. All you got to do is pick 5 NFL games against the spread every week to climb the leaderboard and score your share of the huge cash prize pool. Listen, I would only recommend a service to my listeners that's been good to me. That's why MyBookie is always the right play. You bet, you win, they pay. It's as simple as that. MyBookie has live in-game betting on every NFL game. They've got the most rewarding player perks in the business. And for you fantasy guys out there, check this out. You can even bet the over-under on how many fantasy points a player will score each game. Here's your call to action. Up to $1,000 first deposit bonuses. Double your first deposit. Use promo code OPIE, O-P-I-E, to activate the offer. Promo code OPIE, O-P-I-E. Visit MyBookie online today. That's MyBookie, MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code OPIE, O-P-I-E, when creating your account to claim the bonus. Bet, win, get paid.
OpieRadio.
Well, it'll be 73 next week.
Look at you.
Next week, go and get a fucking cake, Carl. Fuck.
All right, I'll be back.
Yeah, you don't need it. It's
Go,
your
get him a
birthday
cake.
next
It's
week.
birthday.
It's really 2 weeks from now. I just realized.
Is it really?
Yeah, well, maybe it's February 13th.
Jerry, your birthday's a month away.
I know.
We're
I
not
just
even close to your birthday.
I just realized that.
You basically said your birthday's next week, so Carl ran out
But
to
I'm
get a
thinking
birthday cake, and now we're learning that it's well over a month away.
I love Jerry Springer. My mom loves Jerry Springer.
Carl!
Yes! Yes!
We got something to tell you, Carl.
His birthday's not
Sit
till
down.
February 13th.
Sit down, Carl. Sit down.
Fucking
Sit down. Sit down.
You're angry.
No, you too old to be bullshitting me. I ran. I know. That's how you got that plane money, by being a fucking liar.
Yeah.